اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين سيما بقية الله الأعظم روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al Imran, ayat number 85 that I have read for you yesterday. He says that, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Anyone who accepts or seeks and tries to follow a religion that is not Islam, meaning غَيْرُ الْإِسْلَامِ, something that is not Islam. It looks like Islam, it sounds like Islam, on the outward it looks like Islam, but it's not. And if they accept such a thing as a religion, فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ, Allah will not accept it from them. Allah will reject that and reject their practice, reject their following, and reject that faith that they had in a false Islam. And that person will be a loser in the hereafter. This ayat is clearly talking about a fraudulent Islam, a wrong ideology of Islam. And it's not just one. Any sort of false ideology in regards to Islam that people have made up, that have been made up or fabricated by anyone and people follow it, it's not Islam. Because Islam is the deen that Allah has sent down. Inna deena indallah al-Islam, that the deen of Allah is Islam, that which Allah sent, that which Rasulullah brought, that which Ahlulbait established. So we are in search of that religion which is the true Islam, the real Islam, and that is the subject of our speeches. Now, in regards to that, we see that one of the major problems or major forces that go against a person accepting real Islam is ego. We spoke about that yesterday. Ego is a problem that we have, that human beings have in general, and people in the West have in particular, because of the system of democracy that feeds into the ego, the self, and makes a person who lives here think that he is valuable or that he is important. And because of that, a person truly has a difficult time accepting Allah, the dictates of Allah, the decree of Allah, the laws of Allah, anything that goes against what he thinks is right. This is a major problem that we have. This ego stems from that. Because on the other hand, real Islam means submission. And submission means just do whatever Allah says. Do whatever Allah likes, not what I like. Now, these two things, they go against each other. Having an ego and having submission. Ego does not allow the person who has it to submit. It's very difficult to submit to Allah or to the wali of Allah, Prophet or the Imams. In times when they say something, it's very difficult to submit to that, to agree with that, to accept it, acknowledge it, and then follow it. It's very difficult if that thing goes against what we want or what we like or what we desire. Think about that for a minute, and then you will see how hard it is for people to accept something that they don't like. And that's the reason, if a person is a believer, Allah describes the personality and the character of a believer in the Quran. When it comes to the decree of Allah, that when Allah decides on something, when Rasulullah decides on something, what should a mu'min do? What should a believer do? And here, when Allah speaks about this, He separates men and women and says, listen, I'm talking to both of you, men and women. Not just men, not just women. Some people might think, if Allah said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, like a lot of people think, well, this is for men. No, in this particular subject, Allah divides both men and women, speaks to them and says, this is for both of you. And this ayat, where Allah speaks about it in Surah Yasin, ayat number 36. Surah Yasin, ayat number 36. It is the third ayat after the ayat of the Tathir. 3 ayat later. This ayat comes there and says, وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَن يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ. That when Allah and His Messenger have decided on something, they have decreed something, they have set out a law and given out the Shariat, made it clear that this is the rule. After they have done that, then whether you are a mu'min man or a woman, you have no choice in the matter but to follow, to submit. You don't have an opinion after that. You can't give your feedback. There's no feedback when Allah says something. You can't tell Allah, Allah, maybe you missed out on something. It doesn't work like that. Allah is perfect. Allah is the one who created us. You think that He's going to miss out on something? His decree is perfect. When He says something, it is exactly the thing that is right and thing that is truth. So when Allah decides on something, when Allah says this is the law, Allah says this is halal, Allah says this is haram, Allah says this is wajib, there is no choice. We have no choice in the matter. We cannot even object. We cannot even say that, well, let's see, how that is. No, we have to accept that, yes, sami'na wa ata'na. I hear, I obey. We hear, we obey. This is the ayat of the Quran, the way of the Anbiya, the way of the believers. And Allah speaks to believers on this. If you are a believer, you will have no choice what Allah says. Yes, the kuffar will always have problems. Their mindset has problems. Their character has problems with what Allah says. Why do women have to cover themselves? This is not a question of a believer. This is a question of a kafir. A person whose character is kufr, they will ask such a question. Why do you have to pray 5 times a day? This is not the question of a believer. This is the question of a kafir. A kafir, an infidel, will ask such a question because that's how his character is. It doesn't go well with Allah's character. It is in defiance, in rejection of the character. And that's why the first idea of real Islam is submission. Submitting to what Allah says, even if I don't like it, I don't agree with it, or I don't understand it. Fine, I don't understand something. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It has nothing to do with reality. It's only my limitation that I don't understand something. I don't understand a certain rule. That's fine. We just have to practice it. We just have to do this. We just can't say that, oh, well, I don't agree with it. Even though Allah says it, I don't agree with it. Even though Rasulullah says it, I don't agree with it. This is not a believer. So Allah is clearly stating the personality of a believer, the characteristic of a believer is that he is submitting. And this is true Islam. Real Islam is first submission. And the thing that is stopping us from submitting, Number one thing that stops us from submitting is ego. It is ego. Both of these things we have to understand. I gave examples from Hajj yesterday. Let me give more examples from Hajj so that we can understand. Because Allah teaches us submission in Hajj. And I will give examples from Hajj also and some other places so that we see how Allah is bringing us down and telling us that the actual way for success, the only way that you are going to be successful, and the only way that you are going to be happy is when you submit and do taslim. Imam Ali said, Al-Islam huwa taslim. Islam is taslim, is submission. That is Islam. And hence, when we are talking about real Islam, we are talking about submission first to Allah. Then we will go into distortions and the things that have happened and the ideas that are wrong that have been brought out, which are not Islam. We will talk about them later. But right now, the importance of taslim and submitting to Allah. Let us start with that. Hajj, the whole purpose of Hajj is submission. Yes. If you look at Hajj, the whole purpose of Hajj is submission. Those who have been to Hajj, you will know this because you have been through it. For some people, you might have done it long time ago and you don't remember it. When I say it, it will come, refresh itself in your mind. For those who haven't been there, inshallah, may Allah help them to go there, and I'll give them that encouragement to make that move. Because Hajj is important. One of the things regarding Hajj, it is said that anyone who's capable of going for Hajj and does not go for Hajj dies as a kafir. He dies as a kafir, not as a Muslim. Someone who's capable of going for Hajj and doesn't go for Hajj, if he dies a kafir. They say either a Christian or a Jew. That's the way you die. You cannot die a Muslim. And this is very harsh. And it's a strong importance. So anyone out there who thinks that they go or they have these wrong ideas, because I've heard people say this, right? Wrong ideas. We don't want to give our money to Al Saud. That's not an excuse for not going for Hajj. That's not an excuse for not going for Hajj. In fact, we have hadith that says that Hajj will always be under Zalim. They will be hosting Hajj. And yes, when you go there, you just pay enough money to go for Hajj. Do not spend your money on extra things over there to help our enemies. But you go for Hajj. You see, even Imams knew this, that it's going to be like that. So Hajj is one of those things that a person should do. And the reason Allah wants you to do this is not because it's going to be a vacation for you, or it's going to be an outing for you, or something different to do, but because of the fact that Allah wants to give you a lesson there. He wants to teach you Islam there. What is Islam? He's trying to teach you there. What is the path of success? Allah is teaching you in Hajj. So when we go for Hajj, we see that the whole of Hajj has one clear purpose. And by Hajj, I mean the actual Hajj that starts from Arafat and goes to Mina. Arafat is a ground and Mina is a ground. The journey from Arafat to Mina is known as Hajj. There was a stopover in Muzdalifah. Everyone goes to Arafat on the 9th of Dhul Hajj. They stay there the whole day. And in the evening, they all leave to go to Muzdalifah and spend the night there. And as soon as the sun rises, they go from Muzdalifah to Mina. They will go to Mina. And once they get to Mina, they do the Jamarat. This is Hajj. And the Kaaba and the Tawaf, all of that comes later. It's not a part of Hajj. Those are just the wajibat of Hajj. But the actual Hajj is from Arafat to Mina. So with that in mind, let's look at what this journey is about. What is Allah trying to teach us? Okay, first stop is Arafat. What do you do in Arafat? Actually nothing. You just go there and stay there. Yes, you can pray, you can make dua, you can ask for forgiveness. And Allah says that anyone who comes to Arafat and his sins have not been forgiven, before that, in Arafat, his sins are going to be forgiven. So, but What do you have to do for that? Nothing. Just come there and sit there. Relax there. Okay, that's it. You are just relaxing. Now from there, you go towards Muzdalifah. When the evening comes, you go to Muzdalifah. In Muzdalifah, what do you do? Well, there's nothing wajib to do there. But it is recommended for you at that place to collect pebbles. And so people in Muzdalifah are collecting pebbles. You just have to stay there till sunrise. So people are now just looking around for pebbles to collect. And major question there is, what size is the pebble? How big should it be? How strong should it be? Well, it should be very tiny, should fit in the top part of your finger, less than a cent, about a cent size, and less than a nickel, around that size. Something that you can hold easily. So everyone is like picking up these pebbles. Now, what are they going to do with these pebbles? Well, that's tomorrow, because after sunrise, they take these pebbles and Hajis now go towards Mina. And they will go to, there are 3 pillars there, or shaitans there, that are called Jamarat. And these are 3 places where Ibrahim was stopped by shaitan, or he was enticed by shaitan to stop. So those are the places where Ibrahim threw stones at shaitan to get rid of him. And the last one, which is the big one, the major one, you go there on the day of Eid. And then you take these pebbles that you have collected in Muzdalifah and you start throwing them on the wall. And all of these Hajis, millions of Hajis, are now throwing these pebbles on the wall. Now, really, look at this. This is Hajj. That's it. You do that, you throw the pebbles, and you sacrifice the animal, shave your head. It's Eid for you. Allah says, Eid Mubarak. Very good. You are successful. You have defeated shaitan. You have fulfilled your purpose in life. Allah, what is my purpose? Collecting pebbles and hitting this rock with it, this stone with it? Shaitan? I mean, look at what you're doing here. Let's look at what Hajj is. You're picking up these pebbles and you're saying, why small ones? Why not big ones? If I pick big ones up, then at least it will make a dent in that wall. He said, no, you can't do that. How about something else? If I throw something else at the wall, that's going to make a bigger dent. How about shooting it? Or something else? That'll break down that wall. That'll hurt shaitan. No, you can't. You can't do that. Well, why? Just these small pebbles and you go there and you can't even throw it. You have to flick it. So why are you doing this? Grown men, grown people, mostly grandfathers who have raised their children, are running around throwing stones. Why are you doing that? Objectively, just watching it, it looks like children's playground. Grown people playing games. That's what it looks like. And when you actually do that, Allah is saying you are successful. Why can't I do what I think is right? Allah says it can't work. The only way it's going to work and you will be successful is if you do it the way I say it. The whole purpose of it, the whole purpose of this training is to just show you what is submission. Just do what Allah says, not what you want to do or what you like to do. If you do what you like, you will fail. It's not Eid for you. And if you do what Allah says, it is Eid for you and you will be successful. That is it, my friends. The message of Hajj is that. Is submission. Just do what Allah says. That much pebbles, just take that much pebbles. Do this, say Bismillah, that's it. Just do what Allah says and you will be successful. And Allah gives a synopsis, a summary of your whole life in that one movement of Hajj. And says, this is what your life is. If you just do what Allah says, you are successful. It is Eid for you. And if you start using your own mind and start doing your own things and start defying and trying to do whatever you think is right, it's going to fail. it is going to fail. This is why it is very important. It's very important that submission is understood. Allah is teaching us submission, how to submit ourselves in this regard. And you know what? Yes, Hajj is an example of that, but more important than Hajj is prayer. Yes, it is prayer. I mean, with Hajj, it is said that, listen, how do you know Hajj is accepted? I'll come to prayer, but let me just make this point. How do you know Hajj is accepted? One of the ways to know Hajj is accepted is if you come back a changed person. That's why a lot of people who go for Hajj, it's very sad to see them go back worse than what they came, with a lot of anger and just sort of this grief of losing so much money to do this and to go through all of this. Really, they get angry. There's a lot of anger in Hajis when you go back. You will see that at Jeddah airport when you're leaving. Everyone is fighting for the smallest things because their ego has been hurt. Their ego has been hurt because they had to leave the comfort of their homes and lives and come to this and go through this. It is really a blow on their ego. And this is what happens here also. When we look at it, life here is the same thing. We, for example, even if someone advises us, it says, brother, I know more than you do. Okay, sure, you might know more than me do. I'm just advising you. You know, it's mustahab to advise you, and it's mustahab to take advice. Well, I already know what you're talking about. Well, I know, but Allah says, فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. He says, repeat it again. I know it. Oh, well, repeat it again. Say it to him again. Allah, why are you saying the same things that I know? Yes. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Okay, Allah, I know that. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Allah, why are you repeating this? Because this repetition is working on destroying your ego. That idea that says, I know, I already know this. Why are you talking about things that we already know? This is ego that comes out and says that. It has its own accent. And you heard that. This is why the problem is. Allah is saying, no, that ego has to go in order for you to submit. And Allah is making you go through this. Making you go through this. And in Hajj, when we go for Hajj, yes, we want to make sure that we come back as different people. Learn the lessons of Hajj, which is submission. When a person, a Haji, comes back, a Haji should be someone who says, you know what? Whatever Allah says, that's it. That's what I submit to. You know, submission just means sami'na wa ata'na in Arabic. In Farsi, it means chashm. You know, that's what it means. Allah, whatever you say, that's it. I agree with that. I agree with that. That's it. I submit to that. And this is that submission Allah wants to teach in Hajj. And more than Hajj, it is prayer. Salat. Salat is a daily reminder of submission. Yes, and every day, 5 times a day reminder, much more than Hajj. Because Hajj is for rich people. I mean, that's the way it is. Only rich people can afford to go for Hajj. And Hajj is once a year. For a lot of people, once in a lifetime. That's it. They go once and that's enough for them. They don't even want to go back to Saudi anymore. Sometimes you don't have the chance to go back. But then what happens? This is the problem. You go for Hajj in this way. But prayer is every day and everyone has to do it. And it's an everyday reminder. And in Hajj, you think you have restrictions. In prayer, you have more restrictions. A lot more than Hajj. Yes, when you pray, almost everything becomes haram on you. Everything. You can't drink. You can't eat. You can't look around. You can't sleep. You can't laugh. You can't move around. You can't turn away. You can't cry. You can't even talk. You can't even say Ameen. Yes, you can't say Ameen. Nothing. You can't do anything. You are completely confined and restricted. No movement. Allah is saying no movement now. That's it. You are in prayer. All the movement is going to stop right here. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's it. I can't move around now. Yes, that's the way it is. And every day we have to do it. Every day we have to get there. And at particular times. In particular times. Prayer, and you know what? You can't change your time. You can't choose how you want to do it. You have to do it the way Allah tells you. Yes. Let me tell you a story. I was young and I had a roommate, a Muslim roommate. And you know, I used to see him get up in the morning about, let's say, normal time, 7 o'clock, and then he would take a shower. And after taking a shower and cleaning up, he would go and he would pray for about half an hour. He would be praying. I said, what kind of prayer is at 8 a.m. in the morning? I mean, the sun is already up. It's daytime. What's he praying for at 9 o'clock in the morning? For half an hour. So I asked him one day, I mean, I see you pray at this time, 9 o'clock. Why are you doing, I mean, what's this prayer? Maybe it's some special prayer. He made another. I don't know. So I just asked him, what is this prayer that you're making? Oh, these are my daily 5 prayer. Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha. I make all of them at this time. I said, but why? Because, I am fresh. I just took a shower. I feel clean. I want to do it now because the work is dirty and I feel sweaty outside. And I don't feel like it then. So I make all my prayers at 9 a.m. in the morning. I told him, brother, that's not how it works, right? That's not how this works. The whole idea is that you have to pray when Allah asks you to pray. He gave you the time. He said pray at this time, not after that. Praying at that time. You can't just choose what you want to do. That's not prayer then. Now you're making up your own thing. So this prayer, when you look at prayer itself, that is a daily practice of submission. Just do what Allah says. Do what Allah says. Do what He likes. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to be defiant. Just do it. My friends, submission. Get it in our minds and our hearts. Submission to Allah. Taslim. One way or the other, a believer has to do taslim of Allah. Every action in prayer is about taslim. Every action in prayer is about taslim. Ruku. When a person goes into ruku, he needs to bow down with his head stretched out. Someone asked Imam Ali, why is it that Allah wants us to stretch our head out as much as we can in ruku? When you go into ruku, you bow down and then you stretch your head out as much as you can. So they asked Imam Ali that why does Allah want us to do that? So Imam Ali said, because that is a believer's offering to Allah. He's stretching out his head. This is how a person is beheaded in face of his crime. And when you go before Allah, you offer your head to Allah. That Allah, my head is ready for you. My head is ready for you. That is the meaning of ruku. Submit to Allah. Finish. Who am I? I'm nothing. Allah, you take my head. This is my offering. You are offering that in ruku. When you go into sajda, the 2 sajda you have 2 sajda. Between it is a small space in between, sitting space. You go there, you get up, and you go back down. Just, what is that? Why are there 2 sajdas? in one small space in between, it is said to us that first sajda is that you came from Allah, and the second sajda is you going back to Allah, and this space that you have in between the two sajda is your life here, which is only for a moment. So if you have to do anything here, then do istighfar. That's why the only thing we say is astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Do istighfar and then go back to Allah. That's all the time you have here. In sajda itself, why Allah? Why do you want us to be in that posture? You know, look at yourself in sajda and you will see it is the most disgraceful and humiliating posture that a human being can be in. Yes. And really, Allah brought us into that posture. Yes, your head is down, but what is up? Yes, it is a form of humiliation, a means to humble us, that we are nothing. That's what it is. And that's what we need to recognize. My friends, prayer is the best training for submission to Allah. It is training us that I submit to Allah. So the idea is وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولَهُ أَمْرًا أَن يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ. That when Allah wants, when Allah says something to do or decrees something, when Rasulullah decrees something, and when the Imams say something, we have no choice in that matter. We don't have an opinion. Our opinion doesn't count. Our feedback doesn't count. This is reality. This is Islam. And when we realize that the only view that counts is Allah's view. The only judgment that counts is Allah's judgment. The only decree that counts is Allah's decree. And the only opinion that counts is Allah's opinion. That, and when we are satisfied with that, yes, in that regard, we are successful. My friends, that's it, submission. Yes, sometimes we make mistakes. We do wrong things. We do things that we're not proud of. We do bad things. Sometimes we fall from grace. Sometimes we sin. Sometimes we disobey Allah. Yes, we do that. But when a person does that, he needs to just look at his own weakness and say that I am weak. Allah, forgive me. I am weak. You are right and I am wrong. Keep that attitude in mind that I am nothing. Allah, I submit to you, but it's only my weakness and the weakness that I have made for my own self that I'm unable to submit many times. And I fall. So Allah says, yes, if you do that, then there's a door for you. Allah left a door where you can be saved and salvaged and repaired and taken care of. Allah has left a door for you to do that. What is that door? Allah left a door. There is tawbah. There is istighfar, and it's always open for you. But if we have done something greater than that, something really bad, something very bad, that you see yourself doing tawbah and istighfar and it still doesn't help you, then Allah has left another door open for you. A greater door. A door far greater than tawbah and istighfar. A door that is called Hussein. Yes, a door that is called Hussein. If you have done anything wrong that you feel that your heart is not letting it go and you feel ashamed of it, try the door of Imam Hussein and you will see that you will be salvaged. Hussein will repair you. Imam Hussein will take care of you. And that's why when Ashura comes, when Muharram comes, a mu'min, his heart doesn't feel good anywhere except in the majlis of Imam Hussein. You come here and you're in the majlis of Imam Hussein. And that's where you feel repaired. That's where you feel that those emptiness and the vacuum that is there in your soul that you're unable to repair anywhere, it is Hussein who's able to repair that. A door that Allah has given us. As our ulama have said, Hussein is rahmatullah al-wasi'ah. Hussein is Allah's great mercy on mankind. Broad mercy. That if tawbah and istighfar cannot repair something, then Hussein will be able to repair it. See, Hussein is for everyone. He's waiting for everyone. Even a person like Hur, when he came to Hussein, yes, when he came to Hussein, Hussein accepted him. Hur, a valiant soldier, great general, brave person, known in the Arab world for his bravery and courage, battle tested. He was looked up by his soldiers. He was admired by his colleagues. He was a hero of sorts amongst the people. He has achieved enough to be proud of himself. No one would dare talk to her indecently or disrespectfully. No one could say something like that to her. Hur was not a normal personality or a soldier. No, he was someone high up in the ranks. Very high in the ranks. Even the people above him respected Hur. They knew him for his chivalry, his valor, his courage, bravery. They knew that he's a man of his words, and that when he says something, he does it. And Hur was appointed to stop Hussein. Yes, to stop Hussein. Hur caught up with Hussein's army, but it was in such an area where there was no water. For many miles, there was no water. By the time Hur's forces reached Hussein, they were so thirsty. They ran out of water. They were so thirsty looking for Hussein that they ran out of water. The animals were thirsty. They came at a point when they were like dying. When they were dying of thirst. And when Hussein saw them and saw what kind of thirst that they were feeling, Hussein told Abbas, go get the water that we have in the camp and serve it to our guests, to these people. Everyone was given water. Everyone was given water. It is even said that Hussein was looking over the giving of water to make sure that everyone gets water and gets it all. And he told Abbas that give their animals water also until they're fed in such a way that they don't feel thirsty anymore. Give them all the water. Whatever we have, take it out and give it to them. All the men were drinking. All those men who were there were drinking. Even one person says that I was so thirsty that when the water was brought to me to give it to me in a bowl, I took that bowl and in my haste, I dropped it on my clothes. I was taking it to my lips, but I was so thirsty that I dropped it on my clothes in that haste because I was so thirsty. And there I saw that Hussein was looking at me. And as soon as Hussein saw the water fell on my clothes, instead of me drinking it, he stood up and ran towards me and brought the water himself and fed it with his own hand. Fed the water with his own hands. Yes, Hussein fed everyone. Maybe as a reminder that, listen, a few days from now, the whole scenario will be upside down, where we will be the thirsty one and you will have the water. At least remember there that Hussein and his family fed you when you were thirsty. Yes, my friends. Hur came in front of Imam Hussein. And Hur said that I'm here to stop you. My orders are to stop you. Hussein said that, listen, I have been invited to Kufa. I have been invited to Kufa. People have written letters to me. Hur said, I don't know anything about the letters. Imam Hussein told Abbas, bring those letters. Bring the letters. A sack of letters was brought. And he said, see, all of these are from Kufa. Hur said, I don't know anything about the letters, but my orders are firm. I am here to stop your movement and to restrict your movement. I cannot let you go anywhere. I cannot let you go anywhere. When Imam Hussein saw this attitude from Hur, he just told Hur, may your mother cry over your dead body. When Imam Hussein said that to Hur, obviously a person who's not spoken to like that from anyone, when he heard that from Imam Hussein, he said, you brought my mother's name in the midst. If any other man had done that, I would rip out his tongue. But Hussein, I can't say anything about your mother. My tongue is tied. I cannot say anything about your mother. I respect her too much. My mother was a handmaid of your mother, a servant of your mother, who learned from your mother. How can I say anything about your mother? So that is what's making me stop. When Hussein heard that, he says, okay, then you go and pray with your men, and we will pray. It's time for prayer. Hur said that, why pray separately? You lead the prayer, and we will all pray behind you. Imam Hussein said, so be it. So they prayed. After they prayed, Imam Hussein even told them that, let me go. I will not go to Kufa nor Medina. I will go somewhere else. You will not find me. Said, I can't do that. I cannot stop you. And in that way, Imam Hussein now was forced to go to Karbala. He was forced to go to Karbala, and there Imam Hussein set up his camp. And days went by, the armies came in from Kufa and surrounded Imam Hussein. The water was stopped on the 7th of Muharram. Hur was seeing all of this. His heart was with Hussein, but his body was with Yazid. And he was looking at this. What is going on? He sees all this that is happening. He looked at this and says, I have to do something about this. I can't let this go on. I want to stop battle from happening and see if I can get a truce happening. He tried whatever he could. But when on the morn of Ashura, when he saw that war is inevitable, he knew that he had to make a decision fast. He was looking worried. His soldiers were asking, we never saw you like this. Why are you like this? He says, I am stuck between two places. I am stuck between heaven and hell. I am trying to decide. Why? What is the decision that you want to make? He says, listen, if I stay here, I will get dunya. I will get the world, but I know I will go to hell. I can never go to heaven, whose master is Hussein. And if I go to Hussein, yes, I will lose everything here in this dunya. I will be killed, but I will be assured of being with Hussein. And so I'm making that decision. He says, then why aren't you making the decision? He says, I've already made it. But I will not leave in the darkness of the night. I will wait for the morning to come so I can leave in the day so that everyone can see that Hur has left Yazid and has gone to Hussein. And in that way, when Hur left, his son Ali and his slave followed him and they came with him. And he rode proudly out of that camp, his chest out, and he was looking like a champion going out as if there is nothing that is in his way, and he's leading an army of people that across a plain of doubt, Hur crossed that plain that stood between Yazid and Hussein. Hur crossed that plain, and as he was crossing midway, he realized he has left batil, he has left falsehood, but now he has to face the truth. He has to face Hussein. And as soon as he realized that midway, his head bowed down, his shoulders cramped up. He took out his shoes and hung his shoes on his neck like a slave would do. His eyes are down in shame, tears coming from his eyes. His son and slave asking, "Father, what is the matter?" He says, "I don't know how to face Hussein. I don't know how to ask forgiveness for my sins. I am ashamed of going to Hussein." When Hussein on this side sees that Hur is coming towards him, he tells Abbas that, "Abbas, Akbar, go and bring Hur to me." You see that he is feeling ashamed. He's coming as a guest. Abbas and Hur run out and try to welcome Hur. Hur sees Abbas and Ali Akbar and starts crying, gets off his horse, and from there starts walking and stumbling towards Hussein. He says, "How can I face Hussein?" And when he gets to Hussein, my friends, he just looks at Hussein and says, "I ask you for forgiveness. Forgiveness, please. I made you come here. I brought you here into this midst of fiends and villains who are out to get you. Please ask your sister for my forgiveness, the daughter of Fatima. I want to ask her and your children. Please tell them, forgive me. Forgive me." Imam Hussein, you know what Imam Hussein said? Are you ready for this? Imam Hussein said, "Get up, Hur. You came as a guest. You came as a guest. I'm just ashamed I couldn't offer you water. I can't even offer you water right now." My friends, you know this. I will just say one thing, and inshallah you give your condolences for Imam Hussein. When that time came, a person was going to the ziyarat of Imam Hussein. He was met on the way by a Nasibi, a Wahhabi type person, a hater of Ahlulbait. He asked him, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to the ziyarat of Hussein." He says, "I want to come along also." He says, "But you hate Ahlulbait. Why do you want to come along?" I just want to come along and see how it is." He came along to the ziyarat of Hussein. To the ziyarat of Hussein he came along. And he says that when he went to sleep in Karbala, when he went to sleep, he saw a dream. And in that dream, he saw Hussein come in the midst of all the Zaireen who came to Karbala. All the Zaireen who came to Karbala. And Hussein asked the man, he says, "Come here and write down all their names in my list of guests and Zaireen. Write them down." And that man wrote it down, all of them. And then he went back. And Imam Hussein called him again. "Did you write down everyone's name?" The man said, "Yes, I wrote down everyone's name." And then the third time Imam Hussein called him, he says, "Listen, that person, why didn't you write down that person?" He pointed towards me. "Why didn't you write down that person?" That man was like, but he's a hater of Ahlulbait. He says, "Abbas, don't you know? Even if he hates me, he has come here as my guest. He has come here as my guest. I will accept him. I will accept him." My friends, do you know that when you come to the majlis of Imam Hussein, Fatima Zahra counts each and every one of you and says, "You are in the guest list of mine. You are my guest that you are with me." When Hur came to Imam Hussein, Hussein is saying, "You are my guest." سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا محمود بحق محمد، يا علا بحق علي، يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة، يا محسن بحق Hassan, Ya Qadim al-Hasan bhai ki Hussein. Allah give us the tawfiq to be on the right path, wisdom to understand your guidance. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Thank you.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin